So I think we can start.
Right.
So hi everyone. Welcome to this webinar titled "Outreach in the Age of AI." We will talk about standard AI, standard outreach methods like email outreach, social selling, etc., and everything in between. We'll try to cover as much ground as possible. And so my name is Ankur. I'm the founder of Intro AI and LongShot AI, and with me is Pierre, who's the founder of Icypeas, right? So I'll ask Pierre to kindly introduce yourself. Maybe tell us a bit more about what you do, and like what led you to sort of do what you do. So over to you,
Sure.
Pierre.
With pleasure. So thank you for hosting this webinar, Ankur, and having me. So hello, everyone. I'm Pierre. I'm an entrepreneur. I've co-founded Icypeas. I'm in charge of all the business side of the company. I've decided to create Icypeas with my co-founder, Quarantine, who is the CTO, a few years ago, because we were already working together, the both of us, and we were running a communication agency. In this agency, we had to do every year a lot of prospecting work, because, as you may know, the business model of an agency is not a very recurring one. Like it means that every client will last just for a few months mission, and then you have to find more clients. It's hard to keep the same clients again and again. So it means that you have to prospect a lot. That's how actually we started to build some expertise in the sales automation tools that were existing at that time. And we figured out that among these tools, the enrichment phase, which consists in finding contact data, such as emails, but also phone numbers, etc. This phase was very often the bottleneck of the whole process. So we worked with the few engineers we had in the team at the time to create some scripts and try to find more emails that the emails we already had with the existing tools. And after a few years, we realized that we figured out that we actually grew a very good knowledge about enrichment, and we had many scripts that were able to go far beyond what the existing tools were allowing at the time. So we decided to split the company, the communication agency, to create a new company, for which we decided, Quarantine and I, to focus on. So that's how we switched from this agency to Icypeas. We decided to create a SaaS with all the tools we had built in the past to increase the enrichment rate that was possible at the time.
So you mentioned, so that's very fascinating. And sorry to interrupt here. You mentioned something like called enrichment, right? So just to sort of clarify to our audience, what do you mean when you mean enrichment in this context? What is?
Yeah, you're right. I'm speaking specifically about email enrichment. So it means that when you have a lead list with first names, last names, and company names or domain, then you want to find the contact data, especially the email. That's what we call email enrichment. You will use an email finder tool to upload your lead list and get in return the emails for those contacts.
These emails are professional emails, personal emails, catch-all emails, like, so how do you have some specific type of mails, if you were to shed slightly more light on this?
Sure. That's actually a good question, because when you're an email finder, you have to decide whether you will provide only professional emails or professional plus personal emails. We decided to provide only professional emails for two reasons. The first one is that we are based in Western Europe, where the GDPR has been invented and is enforced. So it's obviously more GDPR compliant to provide professional emails only. The second reason is that it's also easier to provide professional emails only, because the way an email finder works is quite straightforward, actually. You take the first name, the last name, and the company domain, and you will generate all the possible patterns of emails, the possible combinations, and then we will test them one by one until you are able to verify one of them.
Interesting.
So when you work with professional domains, it's quite easy. If you start to try to guess and verify personal emails, it becomes much harder, because, as you may know, people, when they create personal emails, they tend to be very creative, and sometimes it's something which is a bit hard to guess. So the professional emails, we can say that they are more standardized and easier to guess.
Okay. So that's very interesting. So you do not rely on some kind of a database, but you do you also rely on scraping of the data from various websites, or are you solely doing?
No. We have like absolutely no database.
Okay.
And it's actually there are two main ways to work when you're an email finder. You can either build a database or work with real-time requests, as we do. So we only do live requests on the web, on different web services, on SMTP servers. So SMTP is the protocol to manage the mail transfers from a server to another. So you can send some requests to SMTP servers to ask them if they know about a specific email address. So that's what we do. So it means that our data is fresher than an email finder that would be using a database, but the processing time is a bit longer. So when we are asked to search for an email, it takes a few seconds, whereas if you ask the same thing to a database-based email finder, it will be able to answer in just a few milliseconds.
Yeah, that makes sense, because you are generating the possible sort of emails and then kind of testing it, that are they verifiable.
Exactly.
And is there some kind of AI also you use in this process?
Yeah, we use AI algorithms at different in different parts of the process. I can give you a few examples.
Sure.
For example, sometimes we have users that provide us with first names, last names, and company names. It means that they don't have the domains, the websites of the company.
Yeah.
So they rely on Icypeas to find the correct website. In this case, we will use an AI algorithm to try to find the right website. So it means that we'll take the company name and we will Google it. We'll also do the same search on different search engines, such as Bing, DuckDuckGo, and other engines. Then we will rank the results with an AI algorithm, which will try to sort or to rank the results according to the probability that is the right domain for this company. So we'll use the short extract of text that goes along the URL of the results, and we'll try from that to guess if it's really the good website we are looking for.
Okay, interesting, very interesting. Okay.
So this is an example of machine learning, but there are many other applications that we do of AI. For example, it's a bit technical, but when we send SMTP requests to SMTP servers to ask them if they know an email address we have to manage a pool, a very large pool of IP addresses. It's like proxies. And the way we'll operate and manage this pool of IPs is supervised by an AI that will optimize for the right match between certain IPs and the SMTP server we would like to interrogate.
Got it. So that's very interesting. So people who just joined, just to sort of give you a recap, I've been talking to Pierre, who is the founder of Icypeas, which is which is in a startup active in the field of basically providing you with high quality emails of your prospects, right? And Pierre was just explaining us to us how did he sort of arrive at this particular problem, and how are they solving it. They are solving in a very unique way. They do not rely on any existing database. They use like AI, etc., to use guessworks and sort of orchestrate their workload. And this is very interesting, right? So you are because in database, I'm assuming that email will also go old pretty soon, right? Like, so you have to keep on updating it and all, etc.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's
Yeah.
the problem with database. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So I mean, like now, let me kind of abstract away from there and ask you that what is your view on the cold outreach? Like, for example, we have been seeing since last couple of years, like people have been sort of one problem is how to identify the correct mail IDs, right? Which you are solving, for example, right? But then there is still other problems. Like, what do you do with this once you have the email IDs? Now, these days, people have been sort of doing all sorts of things, from some template based personalization to totally AI personalization. So what is your view on this whole thing? Like, what have you seen working and not working?
That's a very big question.
Yeah.
um, the first thing is that obviously the cold outreach game is becoming more and more complicated, more and more sophisticated. You have to grow technical knowledge about cold outreach if you want to get good results.
Yeah.
That's a kind of an opportunity for
Yes.
expect people, for agencies, cold outreach agencies or lead gen agencies, because they have this expertise that often is missing when you look at newcomers, SMBs that sometimes don't have like the time and the resources to get this knowledge. I think also it's a good thing that the main ESPs like Microsoft and Google are fighting against spam because the less spam we have in the space, the less the more attention we'll get for the real messages with some very like with the real value, with the best value proposition. But of course, it means that we have constantly to adapt and to keep learning about deliverability, best practices, etc. So
Yeah.
Uh, the way we should do cold outreach today, I think, is a very complex question, implying many things about infrastructure. So you have to build your infrastructure, and there are many ways to do that, and there are good ways and bad ways. So we can deep dive into that if you want.
Yeah.
There are also very important best practices about copywriting. You must also ask yourself whether cold email and cold outreach at large is a good channel for me. It's not always the right fit. Sometimes it's best for you to consider other channels.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's a very good channel. So you
Right.
have to discriminate between the possibilities. And it really depends on your value proposition, your business, your market. You also have to ask yourself questions about the way you source your leads. Because if you source your leads and segment your leads the right way, it will really drastically increase your positive reply rate. It's really important.
Okay.
So yeah, that's all these questions that must be asked. And so now we can
So I
deep
was
dive into all of them if you want.
right. So sure. So I was actually more focused on, so I understand that there are infrastructure angles to it, like, ensuring deliverability in terms of what kind of email infrastructure you're using, what is the amount of emails, and those discipline, right? Uh, but let's say somebody has done all that, right? Then somebody has created a good infrastructure for themselves, and all those boxes are ticked. How important is what email are being sent? So, for example, I've been myself personally getting a lot of mails of the type that they would do some kind of personalization. Sometimes, often that is very irritating as well, right? Like people say, oh, you studied at this college, so maybe they'll pick that as a sort of personalization bit, and then they'll reach out. What is your opinion? Have you seen that happening? Is this good, bad? Like, what is your opinion on that?
Yeah, I think that it can be a bit tricky when we speak about personalization. Personalization has to be relevant. If you just mention the university of your prospects, it makes no sense. There is no relevance at all into that. So obviously, it's awkward and it's counterproductive.
Yes.
To create personalized intros. For example, the way we work at Icypeas, because obviously we use cold email as a channel, we use personalization to create small batches of, let's say, 200, 300, 400 prospects that have something in common, but usually it's something like they operate in the same industry, or they have the same kind of problem, they are in the same area, or they use the same tool. For example, take a very concrete example. Sometimes I do batches of Clay users. I scrape the new members that join the Slack, the Clay Slack, and I know that these people, to a large extent, they have a high probability of being interested in Icypeas. Furthermore, we are partners of Clay. We are integrated into Clay, so it makes sense for me to reach out to them, suggesting that I could take some time and share resources or advice or insights with them, and letting them know that we are integrated into Clay. This is perfectly relevant. In this case, it really makes sense to create personalized batches and a personalized message personalized to this use case. So
that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So basically you're suggesting that rather than sort of doing a very templatized thing, that hey, that it's funny that you studied there, or you was interested in football or whatever, right? Like which is often a very telltale sign of like, I mean, I would say that I would personally be actually more sometimes pissed off with such mails than just like without any personalization, right? But you're right that one
Absolutely.
has to personalize when you have to do personalization, then it has to be properly segmented, and there should be a very thorough approach, right? So let me take this segue to also introduce, like, for listeners who are here, we talked a bit about what Pierre did, and what his experience with cold emails is, and what his thoughts are on this personalization bit. Let me also share a bit about what I do personally, and also like what makes me interested in this space and what I've been sort of doing, right? So my name is Ankur Pandey, and me and my team members are based out of India largely. We basically, like, I'm a founder of a SaaS startup called LongShot AI, which is in content marketing space. But while building that, we realized, similar to Pierre, in your journey, we realized that the traditional methods of outreach were not working for us, right? So we ended up relying more and more on finding signals, right? Like finding signals from, let's say, social media or somewhere else, right? That what makes this prospect interested in us, right? You talked about, for example, people who joined community might be interested in Icypeas, which makes perfect sense, because Clay, don't know, is a tool, is an enrichment product, and basically does make sense that people who are joining as a community would be interested in a tool like ICP, right? So makes sense. What else, right? Like, for example, we decided to go deep and look into other signals. Sometimes the signals are very direct, like people are themselves asking for it. Sometimes people would say, on social media, for example, that, oh, this HR tool is not working for me, so maybe somebody else who is building this HR tool has an opportunity, who's building some other HR tool, I mean, has an opportunity to sort of crack that as a customer. There could be other lateral signals. Somebody is following certain types of company pages and engaging with them, or certain kind of group of founders, right, of a certain industry. So this kind of signals that they may be a sort of more receptive than some random person, right? Obviously, assuming that they are also a decision maker, they fit your buyer persona and all those things, right? So similarly, when we were thinking about email personalization, right, we thought, let's say we have this list of emails, and using ICP, we even if we could get like high quality emails, can we do better? For example, can we get some more data about them? So what we basically are in the process of doing, or rather the tool Intro, which is the SaaS I'm talking about, does is that it tries to figure out it one of the things it does is it tries to figure out that for these emails, what are the pop information available? Do we have LinkedIn profile of these leads? What do they do? What their jobs are? What kind of content they have written? Can we find some media information about this, right? And basically create like a full profile of them using the as a position, right? And uh, what we see is that there are lots of companies who may not need thousands or hundreds of leads, for example, every month, right? They are okay with like 4 or 5 leads, maybe enterprise focused companies. But for every lead, they have to invest a lot of time in researching these aspects. Like people who are aware of things like account based marketing or account research would know this, right? Like it's not about this volume anymore for these companies. It's about, oh, I have this list of 100 emails, but I really want to know everything about them, so that I can put my best feet forward, right? So these are the kind of problems I sort of we as a company attempted to do. And we think that in the age of AI, this is becoming more and more important. And the reason it is becoming more and important is because everybody is getting infested a lot with emails of various types, right? I don't know how much time I invest in every day to either unsubscribe or report spam, or even use all sorts of tools to for example, manage my mailboxes, right? So you can, but at the same time, do not also want to miss any good opportunity which come my way, right? Some good product or good offer, etc., right? So how does so this is where like we realize the problem. uh, there are buyers, like people are still going to buy, right? And that is going to increase. So buyers will exist, sellers will exist, but this whole sort of buying and selling process had become a bit sort of had become somewhat of a chaotic game. So what if we can use better signals? I'll just take this opportunity to show Pierre, you and my the audience who has joined here, very quick, for example, screen, and to show the kind of things we have been attempting to do. Just a second. Yeah. So for example, let's say these are a few mails we have been given, right? Like, these are things we have extracted, let's say, from Icypeas. This is Julia, David, Michael, and Ashley. These are their emails. But what one of the things which the tool does is that it scans the web and figures out what their LinkedIn profiles are, what kind of posts they have written. Just a second. Sorry, I'll just some time to. Yeah. So for example, what kind of post they have written, it basically scans through all their posts. And obviously, if it is a mouthful, you can just see the summary. You can just see like what they actually write about. So it has given a very neat summary of this person basically writes about these particular topics, and a summary of this with all the references. What kind of, how many followers exist, what is the headline, basically what is the job title, etc., tenure in months, what is the relevance score. So if you actually give your own if you give the tool information about what you do, it will also give you some kind of relevance reason, that why this profile, why the tool thinks the profile is relevant for you, and what is the score. And it will even craft an outreach message, right? And how does it craft an outreach message? Not using the default templates, which I mean, we were talking a few minutes back, and which have become way annoying these days. But also, it will actually scan through like an expert salesperson will scan through all the context, and based on that, we are highly personalized and highly sort of basically a message with a flair, right? So this is what we are attempting to do. And the mission is basically to sort of make sure that both the you once again yeah, I think for a second Pierre had left the screen. Yeah, sorry, I think some issue with the tool. Right. So are you here with us, Pierre?
I'm back. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. So yeah, so I was basically trying to explain that this is extending what Pierre did, like finding high quality and correct mails to reach out to, business mails to reach out to. Uh, it seems that in the age of AI, there is slightly more, something more is needed, and what is that more is like in-depth information about you, about a person, about your prospect, right? So this is the bridge this is the thing we are trying to gap we are trying to bridge. On that note, yeah, sorry, yeah, you have something to add to
I just wanted to add something on that, but very quick. Yes. I think it's the work you're doing at Intro AI is really important because today you cannot pitch your prospect right away. It's very hard if you come up with a product or service pitch from the very first message. So by having a summary of the interests of your prospects, you can identify what kind of value you can create for this prospect and bring to this prospect. And if you start your relationship with this prospect by bringing value to him or her, it will be a much more efficient way than just pitching your product right away. But when you want to create value for someone, you know that it's time consuming. It takes time. You have to identify what matters to this person, and you have to create the resource or the message which will bring this value. So if you want to focus your efforts on the right interest areas for each prospect, a tool like Intro AI is very relevant, I think.
Yeah. So I mean, so that's a good point, and I mean, like we have been learning from the pioneers like yourself, like who had sort of started the journey before us. So one quick question on this is that what is your opinion about, like I know that this is not what your tool does, but when we talk about outreach, email is one channel. There are other channels, as we all did mention. For example, LinkedIn is a big sort of medium in itself, right? So, in your opinion, how do you compare and contrast things like email and LinkedIn and maybe others? What is your like maybe free opinion on these on other platforms?
There are pros and cons for each type of communication. Obviously, if you use LinkedIn, there is a sense of proximity when you send direct messages to your prospect through LinkedIn. It feels more like incarnated. So it's like more. There is a more human-like feeling, but you have strong limitations by LinkedIn. You cannot send more than X direct messages. You cannot send more than X invitations every week, every day. So you are very very much limited by those limitations. Also, some people are very responsive when you reach out to them through LinkedIn, and some others are rarely on LinkedIn. So it depends on the kind of market you're addressing. Yes. By contrast, emails you can scale more, but it's maybe less human-like. It might be more generic in terms of feeling. If you compare with phone, like cold calling, obviously it's completely different. Cold calling, it's something that hardly scale. But if you have a very small market, if you sell very expensive products or services, it can make sense to use cold calling rather than cold emailing, because your ROI will be higher on this type of communication. by contrast, if you have a less expensive product, or if you have a very large total addressable market, cold email would be a better type of communication. So it really depends. You have to explore and test these different types of communications before to choose one or several of them. Sometimes it makes a lot of sense to do multi-channel communication. So you will have different touch points. You will send a cold email, then you will follow up with a direct message on LinkedIn, then you will follow up by calling the prospect. Obviously, when you do multi-channel, that's the most powerful way to outreach, but it's also the most expensive one, both in terms of tooling. You have to set up different tools or more pricey tools. And also in terms of time, you have to invest more time to set up, manage all these tools. And obviously, if you complete this workflow with some cold calls, cold calls is really something that takes a lot of time. So yeah, that's my 2 cents about the various types of communications.
So that's really well put, and I think this kind of clarifies that there are other tools and the various outreach channels, and like all of them have their own place. And as you said, cold calling, even cold calling works, like but if done properly, but probably for high value clients, and if you have a niche market, then maybe if you can provide value to, it creates that sense of human touch. What is your opinion about, let's say, AI calling you or calling prospects? Would you like, what do you think is the future of it? I know that this is not what me or you do, but just curious to know the free thoughts on this.
I can answer that, but just to tell you, I don't have a very good expertise or specific expertise about AI voice agents. I know a lot about cold calling, cold emailing, direct messages on LinkedIn. That I have like data grounded expertise, but about voice agents, no. But my opinion on that is that maybe it's a bit early still.
Okay.
I think that a lot of people are not ready for that. When you have a voice robot speaking English, that's okay-ish. But in other languages, for example, in French, I am French. In French, it's really not working well. It's very easy to hear that it's a robot. Like from the very first second, you notice that it's a robot. So it sends a pretty bad signal to the prospect that he is not worth a real human. So I feel that it's maybe the technology is a bit too early, maybe for that, at least in the French language. That's once again, it's just my opinion. I don't have like a real.
No, you're right. I think I would agree. Like it's maybe it's a matter of time. But today, I mean, I would actually say that technologies when it comes to AI voice is good enough when you have to broadcast a message, right? Like for example, you have to, let's say, inform something, like not trying to sell. Let's say when you have to say, oh, you
That's
have
a good point. Yeah.
Right. Then people are okay. Like even if it's a voice call, automated call, then you're like fine. Like somebody's trying to touch base with you even then, right? Like so. But if somebody's trying to sell to you, so selling becomes like a bit of you are putting your money and you're sort of you're prioritizing somebody, some other product, some sort of one product over others. So maybe you want to be sort of treated that way. But maybe this can change, right? So maybe this is
it will change definitely.
6 months down the line, if we sort of when we're talking, maybe that can change. But back to slightly nearer to what we do, both of us do. For example, like I've been seeing a lot of murmur on like people keep on talking about that, cold email itself is dead, right? Like there are other posts, right? And you should focus on either SEO or some other techniques, right? So I mean, do you think that there is some substance to it, or this is yet another sort of fear mongering? Do you sometimes feel scared by this, because this is what you do, right? So
we have been hearing that like for many years now. Like cold email is supposed to be dead since 2015. So and still it's not. It's still growing. So I'm not sure it's dead. I would rather say that it's becoming more and more complicated to not landing in spam. That's right. It requires some technical knowledge that was not necessary a few years ago.
Okay.
You cannot send large volumes like it was possible before. A few like in 6 or 7 years ago, it was possible to send millions of messages per month without any trouble and without any technical knowledge.
Yeah.
Or at least like a minimal one. Now it's impossible to do so without a very strong technical knowledge. So it changes, but I would say that in the same time, there are more and more people who use mailboxes. So it creates also a broader audience for those cold email campaigns. So yeah, it's definitely not dead. Just before you mentioned different types of communications, there are very creative ways to use those types of communications today to mitigate the risk of being blocked. Obviously, if you use just one single type of communication, you have this risk of not reaching the inbox. But if you combine different types of communications, it creates very hard not to be heard by your prospects. And there are some types of communications that I really like and that I will recommend to your audience, even though it's not emails, but they are very efficient. For example, voicemails on LinkedIn are a very good way to increase your reply rate. So you can record voicemail messages either with your mobile phone. That's a feature that is available just for mobile phones. So you cannot see that on the desktop app or the web app on your desktop. But there are also some outreach engines, such as like Growth Machine, for example, which automate the creation of voicemail messages and the distribution of them. So yeah, you can do that. You can do videos. You can there are many ways to communicate. So definitely, code outreach at large in general is not dead. That's for sure. And I would say that maybe specifically in the email type of communication, it's becoming a bit more technical than before.
Right. That makes sense. Right. Yeah. I mean, you can't just sort of create a new mail ID, like register a domain and create a mail and just shoot like hundreds of mails. Right. That is not possible. And if you do that, then you'll before you know it, you'll probably be blocked by everyone and report in spam. Right. So
yeah.
so that's definitely everybody. I mean, there's one thing which should take away, because I mean, I know this is very basic, but even today people keep on doing those kind of mistakes. So even before trying to create anything to do with like a personalization, AI, this, that, you have to have some proper setup in place, right?
Yeah.
All right. So one last point I would love to cover is that, and I already mentioned a bit about it. So since my motivation to enter this, to solve the problem of sales was coming from the point of view of that, can I know something about my audience beforehand, right? And how much can I know, right? For example, if somebody has a LinkedIn presence, or maybe they're active on Twitter or whatever, right? Like, what can I know about them, right? So, and when I say what can I know, obviously, imagine, I mean, it can be create tools which can know about them, like, because this is, anything which has to do with manual outreach, manual scraping, or manual sort of reviewing is not going to be scalable, right? So this was our motivation, which ultimately points to which ties to what basically outreach community called intent, right? So there are like various types of intent. Somebody has a very direct intent. Somebody is trying to reach out to you. Maybe they mail you already, or they have visited your website. So maybe that's a very level 1 intent. And then there are somebody is talking about you on the web, let's something like that. Sometimes they give you feedback on G2s, etc. So there are various intent. Now, my question here is that let's say, what do you think that in a post AI world, people would use these intent, or they would for example, see, if I know that somebody is trying to reach out to me, via code email, and they are using the intent I have expressed on the web, on the platform. So does it create like some kind of a like backfire effect that I would be now be sort of guarded, right? Like I would not rather not sort of share my intent. So would that happen, or do you think that's we are still far from it? So I want to understand the play between intent and cold outreach.
All right, that's a good question. My take on that is that, first of all, I think there is no way that people will change their behavior on the social media. They will keep sharing a lot of stuff, like too much. And
Okay.
the social media, the social networks are too addictive to see this behavior change. So I would not be afraid of seeing people being more protective of what they share on social media. I'm 100% confident that this will keep being like that this will keep moving in the sense of sharing more and more. Secondly, yes, to some extent, you might see some backfire, but that's a very limited one. If the way you express that you are reaching out because of this specific signal or intent, in this case, yes, sometimes there are some people that might backfire a bit, saying you're stalking me, or but
The privacy
that's also
related concerns, and like I mean, how, for example, like people who tracking of your website visits, like people who, this is still, I think, this still falls into that gray area of that not being perfectly legal, right? Like de-anonymizing visitors.
Yeah, but
So
the thing is that you're not obliged to say that you're reaching out because they have visited your website.
yes,
You can just reaching out and just bringing value, sharing value with this person without mentioning that that he or her or he or she has visited your website. In this
right.
case, you skip the weird part of how did you know about that, and but even when earlier I mentioned a workflow that I use, which is I contact people who join some communities like the Clay Slack or some other communities, for example, Lemlist community and some others. And I know that sometimes people backfire a bit, but it's gentle. It's not like very hard and harsh backfire. They are just a bit impressed and surprised that I was aware that they joined recently the Lemlist community, for example.
Yeah.
Less than 10% of the people, and furthermore, it's stated by the fact that after their surprise, they realize that my value proposition is actually relevant to them. So in the end, there are, of course, if you reach out to people and not bringing a good value proposition to them, in this case, yes, it might be a bit odd, and that's it. In general, if you're reaching out to the right people with the right value proposition, they won't be like they won't backfire because you have this or this signal. Far from it, they will actually enjoy the fact that you're reaching out to them, save time and increase revenue. So they are. I see more.
Yeah.
I see more thankful prospects than angry ones.
Yes,
but I wouldn't say that there are never angry prospects. Of course, when you do cold outreach, there are always a few of them who might be angry. But it's part of the game, and it's not specific to cold outreach. For example, when you discuss with people about advertising in the streets, there are always people who think that there are too much advertising, or that the advertising is a visual pollution, and so on and so on. So when you do business, you cannot please everyone. If you want to please everyone, you have to do something else than just mere business. But of course, you have also to keep in mind that You must be careful with people, respectful. I'm not advocating for like a disrespectful behavior. I want to be very clear on that. But yeah, that's my.
So that's really well put. And I mean, like even we started with the proposition that it might sound slightly creepy and apparent violation of like privacy to some extent, but at the end it's like a better value. Like if I know that this person might be interested in my product, so in the end I will avoid, I'm actually providing him more value because I am sort of not just randomly sort of approaching him with some random product just to hear no, right? So it saves my time, the prospect's time, and all this because the whole thing is that buying and selling is still going to happen. So can we make it more efficient, and can we make it more empathetic towards both buyer and seller? Now, how do we do that? Is by sort of bridging that gap. So right, so I think we covered a lot of grounds, from a bit about your journey, your product, my journey, my product, and everywhere in between, and it's been super helpful. I would leave this. I'll just take a minute to ask my audience if they have any questions. Feel free to sort of comment on chat, or however you prefer. There's also a Q&A tab. So if you're interested, you can definitely ask any questions, and we'll just wait for a couple of minutes and take it from there.
Sure. And while your audience is perhaps asking questions in the chat room, I would say something else about intent and signals. I would like to emphasize the connection between the fact that nowadays cold emails is becoming more complicated, so you cannot send large volumes like before. And because of that, it's really important to focus on the right prospects with the right intro, the right angle. And that's why I think that today more than before, it's important to create intent-based campaigns to make sure that you're reaching out to the people who are ready to buy or close to be ready to buy, at least, and not like just everyone in your total addressable market.
Yes, that makes sense. And there is a related question we have, is that I think the question is best LinkedIn message openers. So is this about the best message openers, in the sense that what is the best content copy, or are you meaning to ask is what are the best? I mean, like, can you just clarify your question a bit, Priyanka? Content, okay. So Priyanka is asking about like what can you basically put in your message openers in LinkedIn, if you have any suggestions. I mean, let me actually give my suggestion, if I may. So based on what I've seen, obviously, look, we have been seeing some success with if you actually crack the real intent, and the best type of messages are that if I see somebody asking for something or having trouble with the problem, and I provide a solution without basically trying to sell anything, right? That is the best opener, right? Because I'll just reach out to him either by commenting, or by replying to, by DMing. Then here's this problem, and then sometimes this outbound interns become an inbound. But obviously this is this is very chance offering, and like only a few limited number of people will probably have such questions or such comments in the first place. Do you have any sort of comments on that, Pierre?
Yeah, I would say that it's important to avoid the obviously fake openers. When you start a relationship on LinkedIn, by saying something very generic or very irrelevant to the business side of things, it's a very bad way to start because it will disqualify you right from the beginning. In this case, if you don't know how to start a relationship with someone, it's better not to start it. And for example, just sending an empty connection request, your new contacts will see what you post. You will see what they do, and after a few days or a few weeks, maybe you will find good material, good intent to start the relationship on a solid ground. But yeah, I would say avoid generic, empty, irrelevant openers.
Yes, yes, yes. Very well put. And I've seen that, personally, for myself, that, when I try to sort of, basically add a lot of bells and whistles, it actually ends up getting rejected or unaccepted more than just actually shooting. I mean, just ask, adding somebody who's relevant as a connection, and actually vice versa. I myself, if somebody is sending me the request and with a with a very sort of uh, uh, picking up something which I myself have no idea about, right? Or have to recollect a lot. So that totally sounds fake. So, and like humans are really good at spotting these patterns, I would say. That,
Yeah,
where
that's right.
maybe this is how we are programmed to evolve in, like, I don't know, millions of years. So it's better to just say hi, right? Like, maybe in a cafe or in a bar, right? Then just say that, some use a quote unquote pickup line, right? I think that applies here as well. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will also keep in mind always that you're the person you're talking to has limited time. So don't waste his or her time and try to be like a time savvy person and
Yeah.
go straight to the point. If you have nothing to say, just say nothing.
Yes.
Don't speak for nothing. And
Yeah.
when you speak, try to share valuable insights to bring value. uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
I have this framework in mind where give first and then ask, but not just start by asking. So
True. True.
wonder what you can bring to this person. Try to find something that makes sense or value for this person, and then you will be in good position to start building this relationship.
So there's a last question we'll take. This is by Dushyant,
Yeah.
and he asks, there are a lot of up and coming, well-funded companies offering AI SDR services. For example, 11x and Actively AI. What is your opinion on the effectiveness of this automation approach? So let me offer my perspective. And interestingly, somebody just today asked this question on a group I am a part of. Right, like a similar question, I would say. So I think, like, first of all, there are a lot of AI plus sales startups, right? Like, uh, and this has been increasing, especially since last 6 months, and we probably are one of them. But one has to differentiate between, like, sales is a big space, right? Like, for example, we both are in quote unquote sales tech, me and Pierre, but we are doing different things, right? So there are startups who are doing, let's say, personalization only. There are other startups who are doing, let's say, enrichment, for example, like Clay. And then there are others who are doing things like, something like maybe outreaching, voice agents, etc. So there are various types of startups. You named something called 11x, which is one of the few which are trying to do everything, maybe because they are very big and well funded. I think currently they are not amazing, I would say. I mean, you would not probably be astounded by any of them, um, but this will probably change, right? So I think trajectory is upward. So obviously, like, if one of the things is that sometimes startups promise you the word, and then your expectations are inflated, but then you sort of realize that, oh, it's not so such. It's not like, for example, just today somebody told me that there is a startup which can create demos using AI on autopilot. Like, it'll just create demos for you. And I was really intrigued, and when I actually tested it, it basically sort of did a patchwork of various things, and I would definitely never use such a product, right? So there are some things like this. So my opinion is that, there is an upward trajectory, but one has to apply this human in the loop to basically properly leverage them. What is your opinion on them, Pierre?
I agree with what you just said. I
Mhm.
would add that it's a little bit like the AI copilots for programmers.
Yeah.
If you are a good senior programmer, that's useful. You can leverage on this kind of tools. If you're a junior, beginner programmer, those tools won't help you much, and they can even make things worse.
Yeah.
Because if we come back to the cold email game, if you know nothing about cold email, you will rely too much on those tools. You won't be able to make sure that they work the right way. You won't send the right information as input data, and you will, as output, you will get nothing or like bad things. So I would say that in addition to the fact that it's a bit early, this industry today, I agree with you on that, Ankur. It's also something that is a bit dangerous if you are a beginner in this industry, because they will sell you the fact that it will save a lot of time, but in the end, you won't gain any knowledge. You will rely too much on the tool, and the tool will do wrong things. So that's my opinion on that. Yeah.
Great. So I mean, well put. And on that note, I think this was a really interesting discussion. We sort of covered lots of grounds, some what we do and some others. But I hope we are both. I definitely sort of enriched my own perspective. I am trying to enrich males, but I enrich myself as well. So so that did happen, and I hope that this I can speak for my audience as well. So thanks for your time, Pierre. And,
you're welcome. Thanks for inviting me. And if anyone in your audience would like to continue this conversation, feel free to reach out to me and keep asking questions or sharing insights. I'm open to it.
All right. So thanks everyone for joining, and we'll be sharing this recording very soon. So for those who want to revisit or who have missed, you can check it, right? Thanks again.
Have a
Thanks
great
a lot.
day.
Bye.
Bye-bye.